Episode 3 of Ask the Coach. We're very lucky today to be joined by Rick Lovell from Physiotherapy. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm good, thank you.
Rick, can you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
So my physio background, I graduated from Birmingham a while ago now, about 16 years ago. So I spent some time working in professional football, so I was part of the medical team at Birmingham City for quite some time. In the Steve Bruce years, we were a bit better then.
We were.
And then during the time there, we started a private business. That private business grew, and then we got to the point where we left the football club to focus on the private business. That did quite well, and then we ended up exiting that business a few years ago. We sold it, and then following that, we've set up Physiotherapy. So we've got practices in Birmingham, we've got one at Edgbaston, we've got practice here, obviously, at Combat Sports Centre, and we're just opening a new centre over in Moseley as well.
Excellent. We put our questions out to our members and the wider audience, so we kind of open it to everyone who's coming to us. A whole wide range of different topics, but obviously because of our typical audience, a lot of them have been based around combat sports injuries. Obviously, with you being in-house here, that you do have a lot of experience of working with combat sports injuries as well, boxing, mixed martial arts and kickboxing. And the first one comes from Paddy, who's a boxing coach, and I'm gonna ask you questions 1 and 2 first of all, because I think it'd probably be a similar answer you give for both of them. So from Paddy, the boxing coach, he said, "Why do so many of my boxers struggle with any overhead pressing exercises?" And question 2 comes from Justin, one of our members, and he said, "I have boxed for many years, and I feel as though it's really affected my shoulder mobility. Is there anything I can do to improve it?"
Yeah, they're probably very closely linked. So it's probably easy to demonstrate. So can I use you as a model, please? So if I ask you, if you pop your pad down, if you're going to stand the kind of boxing stance, straight into that position, the first thing you do is your shoulders come in and get rounded and your arms go in there. And obviously, and you're always going to talk about having a tight guard, not getting caught in the middle and everything else. That's going to kind of bring everything forward quite a lot. And then if you throw a jab, we come further round. And if we're throwing off the right, same again. So we end up just bringing everything forward and internally rotating all the time. So relative to the shoulders, if that's internal rotation, that's external rotation. So you're spending so much time in here with boxing, you're going to get tight in structures that are constantly short all the time. If we couple with that, most people are sitting. At work, in the car, at home, and typically maybe the posture's not great, so they end up sitting, slumping down in here. Once again, we end up with the shoulders moving forwards, so the structures at the front are going to get tighter, shorter. Structures at the back are going to get lengthened and typically weakened. So when something's short and tight, it will then tend to affect the opposing muscle and almost switch it off. So most of our muscles work in pairs. So for example, if we do a bicep curl as heavy as possible, our tricep on the other side is going to relax because it's the opposing muscle. If we push our shoulders forwards, the opposing muscles at the back, the opposites, pull them back. So if we spend all our time working the muscles that are pulling us forwards, the muscles at the back just kind of get switched off. And then they get weaker, and then it kind of manifests that we're going to get tighter and tighter and tighter because we've got less work happening at the back. So that then affects the first point of overhead pressing. To overhead press, effectively, we need some external rotation. So if we're in here all the time, and you're trying to press there, what you'll probably find is they either try and press like this, and they struggle to press in there. And it's because your pectoral muscles manage. You've got pec major, you've got a small one underneath called pec minor. Your lats as well, they all internally rotate the arm. So when they're short and tight, it's going to be then very difficult to get out here to then press up overhead. So that's why they're going to struggle with overhead pressing. You may well find, if you're looking to strengthen that movement, if you change a bar to dumbbells and have the dumbbells more in front here, they'll have better range coming up that way than they will that way. So one way to kind of work around it is to have the overhead pressing movement here. Coming on to the second question in terms of mobility, if I find some band, it'd be a good idea, and obviously there's always bands knocking around in here, and you've got the cable machine down the back as well, to do some work to try and counteract being rounded all the time. So you can start with you can do it as a warm-up. It's probably a good idea to do it after as a cool-down as well to counteract being in here quite so often. So if you get bands, you can use cables as well. Some really simple ones are just band pull-aparts. But what we don't want to be doing is coming up all the time, because you're always going to be in here and shrugged up with the boxing. So we want to do the opposite of, and you did it when you stood up earlier, shoulders back, chest out, really exaggerated, arms out in front, and just pull that band apart and back. So if I can get you to do that for me, please, Paul.
Chest out, shoulders
back.
back.
So we're super proud, we're really exaggerated. Good. Grip that band a bit further in, make it a little bit harder. As you're doing it, you have your arms rotated out. So imagine your thumbs are doing it there. And then we're squeezing back. We can spin you around slightly. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Between the shoulder blades here. So you're pulling the arms down slightly at the same time. So the arms are going to come slightly up, and then you're going to squeeze back and down and start to work in here. Can you feel those?
I can,
And again, so we're working all around the inside and bottom of the shoulder blades is what we want to be aiming for. Do 10 of those with enough resistance to make it hard work. So we'd have a set of those, and then real simple to start with, tighten the band up or get a heavier band. Arms, so you're starting at about 90 degrees, and then pull up parts where we're keeping your elbows tucked in tight, and we're doing the opposite, so we're taking you back out into that position. So once again, we're going shoulders back, chest out, pushing apart in there. Now these are really quite simple things, but it will have a small impact if we do it consistently. If you've got juniors in, kids in that have still got loads of movement, if they're doing this consistently along with the boxing, they're going to maintain better shoulder health and movement overall. In terms of, depending on the extent of the restrictions that people have got, doing some foam rolling through the lats and around the side can work really well, just to open up the shoulders as well, because yes, they help you do pull-ups and everything, but they also, as I said earlier, they internally rotate. So opening it out can help. Just stretching, so if you're doing pull-ups, full range, so overhand, then going all the way down to the bottom, so you're fully extending on that pull-up. Feeling that stretch in there. Muscles lengthen really well under load and under tension. Just stretching on its own isn't that effective. But when you can lengthen it under tension and work hard, that can work well. Again, you could do it on the cables, you can do it doing pull-ups. If you can't do full pull-ups, again, you can wrap the band, loop the band around the rig, put spacing here, get the band around the legs. The guys will know how to do it, or the coaches in here will be able to show you. Supported in the knee, and use that to assist. But just make sure that we're going full depth and getting a full stretch out through there.
So you go for the wider grip rather than
you can be close to you wouldn't necessarily go again because your lats help to internally rotate. We want to take you back out the opposite way. So it would be your overhand slightly wider and going full depth, and then really getting that stretch in there. So the basic things you can do yourself. And if you, I'm directly plugging the physio, but I'm directly plugging the physio. If you get the right soft tissue work, myofascial release, someone that understands what they're doing with all the structures, you'd be amazed at how quickly a couple of sessions to just open everything out, and it gives you that opportunity to be able to do the strengthening work to bring you back into a better position.
Excellent.
So that should cover both of those off, hopefully.
Good plug as well.
Thank you.
Good, excellent. That definitely answers it, doesn't it? In lockdown, question 3, in lockdown, I set myself a goal to run 5k, as I thought it would be a good way to lose weight. It has caused me to have a sharp pain in my right heel. What do you think this might be? That's from Helen, 36-year-old tired mum of 3.
It sounds like, and obviously we'd need to see it to be certain, and there's a couple of things that you can check. So it sounds like plantar fasciitis. Now the plantar fascia is a tough fibrous band of tissue that sits on the bottom of the foot. It kind of connects the bottom of your toes into your heel, and it's what helps to maintain the arch. It's tough, fibrous kind of tissue. It doesn't flex a great deal, and it should give you support in through the arch. If it gets overloaded, it can get sore, it can get inflamed, just like anything can, any muscles, any tissues. Key marker, one of the things that's a bit of a giveaway for plantar fasciitis is it's really painful in the morning when you get out of bed. Normally the first, it might be 5 steps, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, depending on how severe it is, can be really sharp and painful. That is a good marker of telling us that it could well be plantar fasciitis.
That's blood flow, is it?
It's because the tissue gets inflamed, it gets sore, it gets upset. We've all had like a sore back or a heavy training session. You know, that initial movement you go to move is like, oh God, that's really stiff and sore. As you get moving, it kind of loosens off, feels a bit easier. You then sit down again, and you stand up again, you're, oh, that's
Yeah.
really stiff and sore again. It's that same principle. As we move and as everything warms up, it just loosens out a little bit. There'll be some inflammation normally around the injury site of the plantar fascia, where it's been stressed. So it'll attach in around the back of the heel, normally right around the base of the heel, in around here is where you commonly get the pain.
Yeah.
When it's severe, people will like say it's like walking on broken glass in the morning. It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
In terms of managing it, avoid the activity that upsets it. So you know, if you go for a run, it makes it loads worse. Stop going for a run.
Yeah.
If you can do some sort of non-irritating activity, perfect. If you can cycle, if it's okay if you walk, if you can do some core work or some more resistance-based training, squats or press-ups and lunges and things like that, without aggravating it, great. From a treatment point of view, we need to look at the underlying factors that have caused it. So it's a mechanical overload issue normally. So either it's because you've started running and you haven't been running before consistently, you've done too much too soon, it's overloaded the tissues. There may be an underlying issue with how the mechanics of your foot function, and it may benefit from an orthotic, control how your foot moves and reduce the stress on the tissues. Typically as well, from a self-treatment point of view, if you have a golf ball, hockey ball, cricket ball, something hard that you can roll under the arch of your foot, it's a bit sore and uncomfortable, so that goes on the floor, foot goes on top, and you roll the foot. So you do sort of 20 reps up and down, so front to back on the foot, 20 side to side, and then sort of 20 where you're kind of digging in and twisting around. You can find that helps to loosen it up consistently. If you do that over a week or so, it should be a bit easier. You can foam roll and release out through your calf as well to help. But it's they can be a little bit stubborn. It's not a good blood supply to the tissue on the bottom of the foot, around the plantar fascia. So if it's something that persists for more than sort of a week or 10 days, 2 weeks, it's probably worth seeking out some proper advice.
Some medical advice. Would footwear have any bearing?
Absolutely. So if you're running around, if you're trying running in inappropriate footwear, so if you've gone for a run in a pair of Converse or Vans, you're not going to have the support that you need through the foot. If your footwear's old and tired and a bit worn out, again, that's not going to be ideal in terms of supporting your foot. And then at the moment, it'll probably won't like you being in a particularly flat shoe all the time. Or hard floors. So if you've got hard floors at home, wear some trainers, wear some slippers, something just to soften and support under that heel.
Okay, brilliant. And as I ask you the next one, I immediately sit up smartly. I've been working from home since March. I find myself getting a sore lower back after spending a long time on my laptop. What do you recommend is the best posture / seated position to avoid this? That's from Terry.
So we've seen a lot of this in the clinics since we've kind of reopened following lockdown, and it's really common. It was a common issue before when people were at work with a workstation and a chair and a setup and everything. So now they're at home on the dinner table, the sofa, the breakfast bar, and everything else is even more pronounced. So it's a loaded question, that is. What's the best position? So everyone's got slightly different anatomy and slightly different postures and everything else. Your spine has some natural curves in it. So you've got the spine, the curve in the lower portion of the lumbar spine, which is called a lordosis, which tends to go in. You've got the mid portion of your spine, which is your thoracic spine, where it tends to go back the other way, and then coming up into the neck, tends to go back here again. So if we, can I get you to shuffle forward?
Of course, Shall I sit down?
Sit down, we'll have you shuffle forward and sat down. Perfect.
This way?
Side on. There we go, you see on the camera. So, if Paul sits with perfect exaggerated posture, we've got the curve in the lower back, slight curve out in the mid back in his thoracic spine, and then a slight curve out again in his neck. So this would be ideal. Shoulders might come back slightly. Now obviously this is wonderful posture, looks like a gymnast, looks like a ballet dancer. No one's going to realistically maintain this. You let yourself flop. This is what we're going to commonly see. Now this becomes an issue because we've lost the curve in the lower back. Instead of being curved in this way, it's collapsed out there. That then pushes everything else forwards. Normally, if you're in here, we're not too bad. If we lose that, everything's slumped down. You can see my head's gone with it. So then you either look at the floor or you lift your head up. That's going to mean you're going to get shorter and tighten the muscles in the back of the neck, longer and weak, as we talked about earlier, through the muscles in the front, and then we get these imbalances start to happen. You also end up pushing the joints in the neck closer together in that back portion, which can irritate them over time. Equally, if we use Paul's top here as an example, he sits nice and tall. If we take that tension in, now if he flops, he's added loads of tension to all this, well, his jacket in this instance. That's what's happening to your ligaments, the connective tissue, the muscles. So if you take your finger and if you bend it back and you let go, it's all right.
Yeah.
Bend it back and hold it there,
Yeah.
and stay there. Doesn't take long for that starts to get uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and then that discomfort starts to build. That's effectively what's happening to all the connective tissue in around the spine, the ligaments, and everything else leaking into it. So, how do we avoid that? If you're ideally at a desk with a half-decent chair, that's a good start. So you can get a lumbar support. If you jump on Amazon, lumbar roll support, you've probably seen them at work or anywhere else for that matter. You can use them in the car too. Goes into that lower portion of the back, just above your pelvis in there. If you've got a solid back to the chair, that will work. It will help to hold you in that position. As long as you've got your backside at the back of the chair, what people tend to do is have the bum away from the back of the chair. So when they lean back, they can still slouch.
Yeah.
So they need to have that back of the chair here, and the roller in there. So there's then, if we're here and there, there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah.
So that helps to support the back. What we then need to make sure is, one, if you're at a desk, sit at your desk. So if I nip your clipboard, people will sit and lean forward like they're typing on the desk.
Or even on the phone, they'll kind of slop around.
Yeah. So if you have if you're sat right the way in at your desk, and it's nice and close. So if it's there, Paul's going to reach forward, and he's going to end up leaning forward towards it. If it's nice and tall and he's sat right at the desk, one, if that's his desk there, he's got nowhere for his tummy to go, and his back of his chair's here. And then if he keeps the keyboard close, he's going to stay here. The further away that keyboard gets, the more you start to, typically we see people starting to reach. So if you're on a laptop, it can be a bit more difficult because obviously you don't actually want that in there because then you're looking down at the screen. If you've got if you've got a keyboard separate to your monitor, one thing that can work really well is blue tacking your keyboard down on the desk. So it doesn't end up getting away from you and you're in there. So we want you nice and close, right at the edge of the desk, arse at the back of the seat, sitting nice and tall, working here, so you can at least maintain this posture to some extent and you're not getting into there. The other top tip is get up and move. So if you are working from home, you haven't got to sit at your desk for 5 hours at a time. Set a reminder on your phone or on your laptop or on your computer, whatever it is, every 30 minutes, even if you just stand up and just rotate 10 times to each side, maybe have a stretch backwards, you'll notice a massive difference. It's what we've now got a lot of our clients doing. Reminder goes off, they stand up, it takes them 30 seconds or less, and it makes a huge difference.
So you're preventing it from happening.
Exactly, try and minimise the duration of the stress on the tissues.
So Terry, do what Rick says and you won't have to book an appointment. Last one is from Connor, who's a pro boxer, and he said, when I'm in training camp, I book regular sports massages to ease my aching muscles. Do you think they're worth having regularly? One of my training partners say they're just a placebo.
So, reference your training partner, either he's not had very good soft tissue work, he's probably just never had very good soft tissue work, essentially, because I think anyone out there that has had it knows how much easier it can make you feel. Without boring everyone with a sort of a detailed anatomy and physiology lesson, there's very good reasons why good and effective deep tissue massage, myofascial release, has a really big impact on your ability to move, on your recovery, on mobility, flexibility, and well-being as well.
So if they're in training camp, we're making the assumption they don't have any injuries that need treating. So in terms of soreness, I'm assuming it's DOMS from the exercises you're doing. It's still useful for a boxer or a fighter to actually incorporate that.
Absolutely. So if we link this back to our first couple of questions earlier, if they're in training camp, they're boxing all the time, they're going to be training, they're going to be working out, but there's going to be a balance of they're probably not in so much of their strength work, because obviously they're in camp for the fight, so the heavy lifting's gone, that phase has been and gone. So they're doing loads of boxing, loads of sparring, they're going to start tightening up in through here. So you can look at this from 2 points of view, whereby you've got your general sports massage from a well-being point of view and recovery, because it's going to, from a recovery point of view, increases blood supply to the tissues. Increased blood supply leads to an increase in delivery of nutrients to the tissue, increased rate of repair, increases the rate at which the byproducts of tissue respiration gets flushed away, so you're going to have healthier tissue. And additionally, you're going to start to gradually tend to get a little bit tighten around the front of the shoulders, and if that goes unchecked, you're going to get a change in the mechanics or the mechanical alignment, and then with all the increase in training, you're going to have a slightly higher risk of potentially getting some sort of injury or niggles. So if you then couple the right soft tissue work, myofascial release work, releasing pecs, releasing all the structures that tend to get tight, it's much then easier to be in a better position, just do a little bit of ongoing maintenance rehab work with the bands, some of the things we talked about earlier, and you're going to minimise the risk of having an injury during training camp as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that is absolutely brilliant. That's just, because that's something I was interested in as well. As a coach, I'm not sure what the value is, whether, you know, because you do get a lot of well-being, sort of like relaxing, you know.
Yeah,
you
so
don't know what, you know.
you're going to find different levels,
Yeah.
different layers, you know, whether it's a car, whether it's whatever, you've got Ferraris at one end and you've got something else at the other end. So you'll get somewhat, and I don't mean this to be in any way, I mean somewhat generic soft tissue and massage work, which might not produce a significant change or result. It needs to be quite deep, or very deep, for someone in a training camp to be particularly effective.
Yeah.
And there may be some guys that have had some work done with us who can vouch for what deep is, but equally for the benefit they'll get. Now, if someone's in two minds or isn't sure, I would encourage them to look at getting something done properly. If they do, again, plugging us, if they do see us, they will see the difference in what real high-level deep soft tissue work, myofascial release. So it's not just the muscles we're working on, there's a connective tissue called fascia that links everything together. And it's understanding how that works, how it interacts, the pathways that it runs along is what then enables you to work on the right areas and get a really profound response. And that's something that can be doing. And in the coming weeks and months, we'll actually be having someone starting with us they'll be based here as well, that is focused on sports massage.
Right.
So they'll be here on potentially on a Saturday and a Sunday offering that service as well.
That's going to be really useful for us.